Life happens everywhere. Like it never even happened, only happens here. The cleanup and restoration specialists at 1-800-SERVPRO and servpro.com.
The most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real-world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $100,000 in annual prizes. This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Give us a try and experience the slice difference.
Hello everyone, welcome live to 3Y TV and tonight's broadcast of the Falcon race wraps at the Glen, Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series race. I'm Peter Short, and joining me in the booth here tonight is Greg Renson. Greg, we're turning left and right this week, and this is the penultimate round until the playoffs happen here in the Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series. Might we see a driver punch their ticket into the playoffs here tonight? Well, Greg, it's going to be interesting to find out because currently sitting atop the leaderboard here in this qualifying session is Woody Mahan, and that number 84 looks pretty fast here tonight, Greg.
Should be a fun one, Peter, and Woody Mahan is not yet locked into the playoffs, so a good run here tonight could definitely help him in that pursuit, and if he can pull off a win here tonight, which he's looking very strong thus far in his number 84, he will be sitting very pretty, but he is going to be feeling a lot of pressure from that man right there on screen. Greg Evans, number 2, is sitting position number 2, and he has proven time and time again to be a threat anywhere he goes. Keep your eyes on the Alliance Truck Parts Chevy here tonight to try to play spoiler for Mahan, looking for win number 10 on the season, Peter.
And there you see your current points leader, the number 7 machine of John Jenkins. Didn't quite have the showing he was looking for last week in the Dirty Bird Sim Racing North Wilkesboro 160. We'll get to that in a minute. There you go. Those were the standings, the race results, I should say, after that race last week. Tyler Seville taking the win in the number 11 machine. James Arello coming home a strong second spot. Greg Evans in that number 2 machine. Greg, you mentioned him coming home in third. Then Mullins, Worsler, Alan Young, Yazik, Jimmy McKee, Jared Haggerty, and John Jenkins rounding out the top 10. But Greg, last week we saw a lot of great short track action in North Wilkesboro. We got a little bit of a green flag run there in the middle of the race. We got to see Will Worsler lead a lot of laps, but at the end of the race, it didn't work out for him. A little bit of a different pit strategy right there at the end of the race amongst the drivers, and it worked out for Seville.
Yeah, Will Worsler coming away with the win as a car owner with Tyler Seville's second win of the season. It was a big one, and he was very happy to be able to get it and become the first ASRS Premier Series winner at North Wilkesboro since Jim Foose did it all the way back in the NR 2003 days before the series made the switch to iRacing. There you see Will Worsler, the team owner of Will Worsler Racing, for which Tyler Seville picked up the win last season. And Will Worsler Racing coming into tonight, Peter, 5 poles in a row, but that is in jeopardy right now as 3 drivers sit above the highest Will Worsler car. One of them is that one right there, Woody Mahan in the 84, but you've got Greg Evans, and up until then, you had the satellite driver of AJ Digby up there as well, but Will Worsler himself just went to third, so Will Worsler Racing not out of the question yet, but they got some stuff to deal with here tonight in the form of Mahan, Evans, and their satellite driver Digby.
Absolutely, and of course, usually at this time here on 3Y TV, we're talking about going to the qualifying session. Well, this week on a road course, and what we did a couple weeks back when we went to Sonoma Raceway, is we actually have an extended qualifying session. It's an open qualifying session that lasts for the length of a normal practice plus qualifying. So usually practice is 30 minutes, qualifying is 10. Well, here on the road courses, they open it up. They combine 30 minutes and 10. They make it a 40-minute open session, and you can see up at the top left, Woody Mahan has turned the fastest lap. But as I say that, the first man in the 1:09 9s, AJ Digby in the number 14 machine. There he is. That is a lightning quick lap time around this race course, and it is a very unique race course, Greg. I know that Mark Martin coined this place the super speedway of road courses. It's very, very fast speeds up above 170 miles an hour down the straightaway up until you get into the bus stop. And Greg, I love coming to this track. I know a lot of drivers do. A lot of people who don't like road courses even enjoy coming to Watkins Glen.
I was actually just going to say that, Peter. A lot of drivers who aren't particularly fond of road course racing, they still love coming here. As you see Sam Crow in the retro Toyota paint scheme on his Chevy. Kind of an odd combination there. The old TRD paint scheme on his Chevy Camaro. Or at least vibes of the old Toyota scheme. But going back to what we were talking about here, like you mentioned, drivers who aren't too fond of road course, they like this track, and it shows that this racetrack can really be, it can almost drive like an oval a little bit, Peter. You got the long straightaways, the swooping corners, almost drives like an oval. You're just turning left and right while you do it. As you see some of our drivers going around. There, of course, is Adam Jersky. Question for the chat tonight, of course, as always, what kind of cheesecake is in the oven in the beef Jersky? Number 69, our producer saying strawberry shortcake. This we kind of a switch up here. He's used to saying key lime pie, so maybe our producer in a little bit of a different mood here tonight.
Yeah, and just a different mood being on a road course. It is different than an oval, and we see that here in the qualifying session. And obviously, you're going to be turning right here tonight. Let's see if we can jump on board with one of these drivers and see if we can take you for a lap around this racetrack. Here we go, on board with the current provisional pole sitter, AJ Digby, now coming out of the final corner. Now, some people say this is a 7-turn racetrack. Some people say it's an 8-turn racetrack. Some people even say it's an 11-turn racetrack. We are going to use NASCAR's 7-turn. That's what NASCAR say. Some people say it's turn 11, but AJ Digby right there into turn number 1. And you got to watch out for a lot of wheel hop down into turn number 1 because hard on the brakes downhill. Here we go up through the S's now. A twitch to the right, a twitch back to the left. Got to watch for the car getting very light going over that crest. You saw Digby there sawing on the wheel as he hit that crest. Now you get a little bit of breathing room as you're down the long straight, hard onto the brakes into the bus stop. You got to hit the apex on entry into that bus stop. It is so important. If you don't hit that apex on entry into the bus stop, it will snowball. Here we go down into the carousel. That long right-hander down the hill onto the second long straightaway here. And then you have another braking zone into turn number 6 right here. The left-hander, you're going to want to use up as much of the racetrack on the right-hand side. You see Digby, he didn't use all the racetrack out there, but surprising there. And a little bit twitchy down there to turn number 7. You usually don't want to hit that curb. Digby hit that curb just a little bit hard. You saw the car lurch up into the air. We'll see what kind of lap time this is for the number 14 machine. But as you can see, that is a lap around this racetrack, and it was a 1 minute 10.013. So Digby in that race car almost eclipsed his best lap time out there. But I'll tell you what, Greg, pretty good lap there that Digby put together. We'll have to see what he can turn in the race, but you can see all these drivers now on pit road because they do have a driver's meeting. So it does appear at this moment in time that AJ Digby might put himself on the pole here.
It would be a big one for him, Peter, as he's searching for that second win of the season. But it is the penultimate race towards the playoffs. So let's take a look, Peter, at the current point standings. Here you see them on screen. Of course, John Jenkins in the number 7, 2 wins on the season, leading the way. But we talked about him, 8 wins on the year. Greg Evans breathing down his neck in second, and in third in qualifying right now. And you got a duo of Will Worcester racing cars, Seville and Worcester hanging in there. But Peter, we're keeping our eyes on what's going on down here around 12th because that's your playoff cutoff.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, Woody Mahan, he is 42 points out of the playoffs. But remember, next week we have the Surf Pro Wheelman Showdown, race number 7, the Firecracker 200 at Daytona. What a swing it could be. You've got here a road course, and Woody Mahan definitely showing his pace. And then you have kind of a track that you don't really know what card you're going to be dealt. At Daytona, it's a little bit of a crapshoot. Are you going to finish up near the front, or are you going to be involved in the big one? Who really knows until you find out the checkered flag has been thrown at Daytona. So even though Woody Mahan finds himself 42 markers out of the playoffs right now, we have 2 races that could really shuffle the deck, Greg. And Richard Stallings down there, he's actually not in tonight's race. He actually struck out. We do have a strikes rule here in the Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series, and unfortunately Richard Stallings fell foul of that. John Broussard, 61 markers out, and Greg, I think that's probably a little bit too much with just 2 races to go to get back into the playoffs. So you think that from 12th on up, pretty much looking good. Woody Mahan is really the only question mark whether he can pole vault himself above Christopher Bouchard.
A very strong run tonight for Woody Mahan could do just that, Peter, and he is sitting very pretty right now, second on the charts here in qualifying during the drivers meeting, trying to track down Chris Bouchard in the number 50. He is right there with him. He is sitting in the top 5, Peter. Bouchard in 5th as well, so that playoff cutoff could be very crucial tonight, as both drivers there we're keeping an eye on in that spot in the top 5 here in qualifying.
Yeah, Bouchard really wants to come out of this racetrack with as good of a finish as he can, so he knows going into next week's wildcard race, the Firecracker 200, which is also round 7 of the Surf Pro Wheelman Showdown, that he doesn't have much to worry about at Daytona. So we'll have to see how Bouchard fares here tonight around this left and right turned Watkins Glen International Speedway in upstate New York. In fact, upstate New York is a beautiful part of the United States. Make sure you check it out at some point in your life just for its beauty, with all the lakes and all the beautiful trees and all the small little towns that are found up around Watkins Glen. In fact, the little town nearby, Watkins Glen, is a beautiful little town. So definitely go check that out. And it, of course, is one of the best road courses to visit in the United States if you are a race fan. But as you can see right there, only 30 seconds left here in the qualifying session for tonight's Falcon race wraps at the Glen. 110. It's actually 110 miles here tonight, 45 laps. And Greg, one thing about road courses here in the American Sim Racing Series Hacksaw Premier Cup Series is no cautions here tonight.
One guy who's going to be very happy, he alluded to it in his post-race interview last week, Peter, is going to be Greg Evans in the number 2, because he has been on the wrong end of some late race cautions quite a few times in the last few races. He said in his interview that he was very, very excited to be coming here to Watkins Glen, where there was no cautions here tonight. You see Barney the Flagman displaying the checker flag. It'll walk it up. AJ Digby will be your pole sitter for tonight's race.
That he will. And AJ Digby, remember, he got that win just a couple weeks ago at Iowa Speedway when we went there in the Summer Showdown, brought to you by Patriot Media Marketing Services. So he's already got one win in his relatively short Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series career. Remember, he got his first race around Sonoma. In fact, I think it was the week just before Sonoma, the other road course that we had this year, that he got his first ever start. And he's already got a first win here in about 6 or 7 races to his name. So, Greg, we're going to jump over here into the race here shortly. And it's going to be a long one. A lot of drivers here are talking about tire wear and the tire fall off. These cars get very slippery out there. To go out there and put a fast lap in is one thing, but to put together a solid run without making mistakes is another. And I'm looking at the current top 13 cars, Greg. Michael Krobach, 13th on the grid. He is only 0.9 of a second slower than AJ Digby in qualifying. And I know that sounds like a lot, and it does sound like a lot for ovals. But here on a road course, if you can conserve your tires over a long run, it doesn't really matter that you don't have that sheer one-lap pace. You're going to have to put together lap after lap, minimize your mistakes, hit your apexes, stay focused for all 45 laps here. We are expecting to see one green flag pit stop here in this race, most likely around halfway. These drivers are unable to make this entire race on fuel, so I do think that around halfway is when I expect to see most of these drivers. I wouldn't be at all surprised if we see them on lap number 23 right at halfway. But Greg, all these cars starting to get down there to the starting grid, so why don't you take us through the first 10 cars?
I will do that, Peter. Starting on the pole was the Iowa winner, AJ Digby, in the number 14. Big one for him here to start on the pole, with Woody Mahan looking for a big finish tonight, the 84. He will roll off to his outside. In the second row, you notice that the inside row is where the outside row typically is, so Greg Evans in the third position lines up behind AJ Digby in third, but to the right of fourth place Doug Mullins in the number 18. Chris Bouchard, another guy who's on the bubble there. He has a win, though, so very close up there. He will be up in fifth with Will Worcester to his outside in sixth. Last week's winner, Tyler Seville, in the number 11, 2 wins on the season, with Brian Yozik, the Kentucky winner, to his outside. Rounding out the top 10 are Jimmy McKee in the number 8 and John Jenkins in the number 10.
The number 69 machine of Adam Jersky will roll off from the inside of row number 6. James Zorello in 12th. Michael Krobach will be starting in lucky number 13 on the inside of row number 7, and to his outside, the number 1 of Jason Stewart. On row number 8, we have Jordan Harnish in the number 32 and Cody Spiker in the number 19. There you see those two cars. Behind them, you find Jackson Van Valkenburg starting in 17th, and the number 23, Alan Young, will roll off from 18th. Rounding out your top 20 in tonight's field, Sam Crow and series newcomer Tanner Sharp. Greg?
Lee Staples will roll off in 21st position in the 26 car with Ed Bray to his outside. Bray has been running stronger as of late, still looking for that breakthrough finish. Tim Knott still searching for that first top 10 of the season. Could he come tonight on the road course? We'll see. He'll have John Broussard to his outside, one of the many Dirty Bird sim cars in the field today. Brad Lee, the 01, will roll off 25th. Richard Fletcher, the fifth wheel Worsler entry, in 26th. The final car to take time was Troy Haight, who's been having some connection issues throughout the course of the day in the 28th. He was the 27th and final car to take time. Two cars taking a provisional, Mark Myers and Michael Whiting, and so far neither of them, Peter, have made it to the grid.
Yeah, so it looks like it will be a 27-car grid here tonight at Watkins Glen International. You see the cars snaking their way through the bus stop right here. Some people like to call it the Interloop bus stop. That's my term for it. But I'll tell you what, Greg, we're going to see quite a few passes leading up into that corner right there here tonight. Probably the best overtaking spot on the entire racetrack with that long run up through the S's. Very easy to make a mistake in the S's and open the door for one of your competitors into that bus stop. So I'm sure that will be one of the hot spots here tonight. You'll see also turn number 6 that they're leading up to right now will also be a hot spot, because turn number 5 is pretty difficult to get the power down, especially on older tires. You have to watch the car washing out the racetrack. That can definitely open up the door for your competitors as well. This is a great racetrack, different overtaking opportunities. It will come down to who saves their tires best, who can minimize their mistakes for 45 laps around this 7-turn Watkins Glen International Speedway. The pace truck gonna dive down onto pit road, race in the hands of the number 14 of AJ Digby, and the green flag waves here at Watkins Glen. Great start by AJ Digby. He's got a little bit of a nose out front of that number 84 machine of Woody Mahan as they dive off into turn number 1.
Getting right up on the back bumper of Digby into turn number 1. Digby trying to break away, one win on the season. That is the battle right there in third, a very crucial battle. Bouchard and Mahan in the 50 and the 84. They come to the S's, top two breaking away, side by side for third, not for long, as Bouchard kind of slides up in the guardrail. Advantage Mahan for that spot right now.
Yeah, Bouchard and now the 18 of Mullins are side by side for the 4th position. So that is where the number 18 qualify. Mullins is going to hold on to 4th, so Bouchard back to 5th. That's where he qualified. The only driver to gain spots in the top 5 is Greg Evans in that number 2 machine. He got around Woody Mahan right at the start. Looking a little bit further back, there's the number 3 of Lorello, who had a fantastic showing last week at North Wilkesboro. But I'll tell you what, Greg, we already see one driver trying to poke his nose out here into turn number 6. That's Brian Yazik at the number 55. Good job by Yazik to get around Tyler Seville, last week's race winner. That's a battle for around the 7th position. The number 55 now sandwiched between the Will Worsler Racing teammates of Worsler and Seville as they head here across the start-finish line. You'll see that race official won't have much to do here tonight with no cautions around this racetrack, but we're pretty much single file throughout the field as for now.
Yeah, battle a little bit back here around 10th between John Jenkins and Adam Jersky, but Jenkins has since settled back down. As you see, Chris Bouchard, one of the Pocono winners, snaking his way to the field. There's your point leaders, John Jenkins right there, with Michael Krobach hanging back there. And Krobach saw his teammate Brian Yazik, we mentioned him a moment ago, get the win in Kentucky. Krobach still looking for that first win of the season here in the Hacksaw PC's Premier Series, and has had a few good runs in his number 72 the simulations, and Jordan Harnish in the 32 having a little bit of trouble as he is coming to a stop up in the bus stop. And Peter, not the return to Harnish one. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, let's see what happened here side by side there with Cody Spiker. And oh man, contact there when they tried to turn back left. They just had it coming together. Number 32 goes for a slide. Tanner Sharp in the 03 machine has also gone around, just coming out of turn number 5. Now on board with the number 19. Man, Ornish right across the nose of that machine. We'll see if we can see what happened to Tanner Sharp. There he is, back behind Brad Lee in the 01 machine. Well, here we go. This is coming out of turn number 5, side by side there with Alan Young. What happened here? Did he, ooh, man, a little bit of contact there with the right rear of the number 24 machine, and unfortunately for Tanner Sharp, that put him into the inside wall. He's going to slide back to 25th. Also getting reports that there was contact coming up through the S's on the first lap. Jackson Van Valkenburg in the number 23 Ford had a little bit of help, I think, from someone from behind, and he's now fired back in 22nd, but he went for quite the ride up through the S's. Almost looked like he was rally crossing in that Ford. Unfortunately unable to get a replay for that, but we'll have to watch Van Valkenburg as he moves through the field. Meanwhile, back out there on the racetrack live, we do see John Jenkins in the number 7 machine. He's got around Adam Jersky to get up into the 10th position. That is where your points leader qualified, Greg. And the points lead for John Jenkins, we didn't really mention that points lead all too much. It's been shrinking a little bit over the last few weeks, just down to a couple of points. And John Jenkins in that number 7 machine, will he hold on to that before we start the playoffs? We'll have to find out. Meanwhile, side by side there, the number 1 is Stewart, getting around the number 3 of Lorellos to move him now up into the 13th spot. And now Krovach under fire by that machine. But Greg, pretty good start here to this race.
Yeah, very good start and very calm start as well, which is what some of these drivers were looking for. Is there you see their battle for the race lead here in the early stages. AJ Digby, the 14, Greg Evans in the number 2. You're on board with Evans, who is the driver who's tracking down John Jenkins in the points. 8 wins on the season and multiple podiums to go along with that. It's been such a strong year for Greg Evans, who's climbing up the win total and closing in on Jim Foose's all-time win mark, as Greg Evans tries to close in more gap on that and try to lock up a championship while doing it. Currently 2nd in points, and boy, the way he's running, it's going to be hard to bet against him in the playoffs.
Yeah, that number 2 machine, no matter where he shows up, he is fast. That's probably the best way to put it. Greg Evans equals fast. Meanwhile, sitting in the 3rd position, Woody Mahan Speed Laboratories on the hood of that number 84 machine. He's just a little bit off the pace of the cars in front of him, but not a significant amount. Last time by, he was about 0.4 of a second slower than Greg Evans. Just minding his own business at this present moment in time. Got a little bit of a gap back to these two. Christopher Bouchard has got around Doug Mullins, so Bouchard now up into the 4th position. That's where he needs to be for his current points tally. Doug Mullins sitting in 5th, and then you got a gap back to the number 29 of Will Worsler, who leads a little bit of a train. Brian Yazik, Jimmy McKee. Good job by McKee here in the number 8 machine. He qualified in 9th, now running in 8th. Tyler Seville in the 9th position. Last week's race winner from our race that we had at North Wilkesboro and that Slice Porcupine's machine. And there you see John Jenkins rounding out your top 10. A little bit of a gap back to Adam Jersky, but Greg Evans has all but caught AJ Digby up the front.
Putting pressure on. We'll see what he can do going into this first turn. You see him making the peak here. Can he get the run on Digby? Not quite what he wanted, but he might be able to carry it through here. Through into turn number 2 as he gets up very close to the bumper of Digby, into these right-handers up into the S's. And this is where you're setting up for a pass. You're not going to be able to make many passes up in this particular part of the track, but you can set up a run. But AJ Digby did very well through the S's there to gain a little bit of ground back there as they come up on the bus stop. Good chance of the pass here, but Evans too far back to make a move, as Digby does a great job on defense there.
Yeah, but did you see the way that Evans hit that first apex? He hit that first apex pretty much as good as you could. He was able to carry a lot of speed there through the bus stop, was able to close back in on AJ Digby, but a little bit of a slide there coming out of turn number 5 for the number 2 machine. And that is going to cost him just a little bit of time. That gap opens back up. Meanwhile, the 13th place race car, James Lorello, has encountered some issue, and he's had to pull off the racetrack, getting word that turn number 1 was the bane of his existence. This last lap, lost the rear end coming out of turn number 1 and hit the outside wall. Meanwhile, battle for the race lead. We saw it right there. Greg Evans once again looking to the inside of the number 14 machine in turn number 1. Still not able to do it, Greg.
And Digby had a much better exit that time than last time, able to open it up. But Greg Evans has been so strong on the front stretch, able to get right up on the bumper of Digby. Wow, did you see AJ sliding through the S's there that time? He is wheeling that number 14 car right now, trying to keep Greg Evans at bay. And Peter, what is that going to do for the two behind him, Woody Mahan and Chris Bouchard, both drivers in desperate need of good finishes here? Could this allow them to close in, as I'm assuming something happened in the Marlins game, as we hear just a little faint little peek out of our producer in the truck?
I'll tell you what, though. I'm watching last lap times, and Doug Mullins in the number 18 machine was actually the fastest car out there on the racetrack. He's closed back in on Woody Mahan. In fact, the number 50 machine of Christopher Bouchard got around Woody Mahan there, Rick. So move the number 50 machine now up into the third spot as he just goes over those rumble strips on exit of turn number 7, kicks out the rear end just a smidgen. And here comes Doug Mullins poking to the inside of that number 84 machine. So Mullins here showing some speed, as has Christopher Bouchard in the number 50 machine. Last time by, fastest car on the racetrack, now Will Worsler. So things continuing to shuffle, and it's definitely showing here, Greg, that there's a lot of pace out of these drivers here tonight. Definitely some of them electing to possibly save their stuff just a little bit. We'll have to see how that goes, as we have already got 7 laps in the books here tonight.
Bouchard, the highest scored Ford right now, trying to track down the 2 Chevys of AJ Digby and Greg Evans. And Evans not going away in the bus stop. Trying a little bit of a higher line here, maybe to set up a crossover, as he gets right up on the back bumper of AJ Digby. Boy, it looks like the last lap here, and they are just wheeling it here on lap number 8. Ooh, Evans might have a shot here coming up on this left-hander, turn number 6. He's got a really good run. Gonna get to the door and drive right around AJ Digby, who's in the grass.
They're both off. The number 2 of Greg Evans going to come back on the racetrack, and he's going to lose the lead to the number 50 of Bouchard. So just like that, Digby going to fall back a couple spots. Here we go on the 3Y TV replay, that both the 2 and the 14 doing a little bit of rally cross there, and that allows the number 50 to say, thank you very much, I'm going to take both those spots. And now Christopher Bouchard takes his point at the point here. I'll tell you what, the number 50 of Bouchard, I'm sure he is so glad he's just able to get around him. You saw that right there on the 3Y TV replay. So Bouchard going to get a point here for leading a lap. There he is down the long straightaway over the number 2 machine of Evans. And now AJ Digby, I was just about to say, Greg, AJ Digby had a lot of pressure applied to the rear end of that number 14 machine. It's a tough situation when you got a race car all over your back bumper. All that pressure is felt by the driver, you know, and as the number 2 kind of pokes his nose out here and there, it just adds to that pressure. You see that car all over you, and sometimes it can lead to mistakes like we just saw there.
It just shows to show in a blink of an eye how quick things can change here. You see Digby, he was the race leader last time through here, being scored in 5th position right now. One of the big benefactors of that one, Peter, Doug Mullins, the 18 car. He's now in 3rd in his sliced porcupine Chevy Camaro. Fastest car in the race also is that number 18 right now. Fastest car to turn a lap thus far today. Putting pressure now on Greg Evans to try to get up there. Up in front, though, some lap traffic in front of Chris Bouchard, as it's the 01, I believe, of Brad Lee, who's coming to a near crawl at the as that is not a lot of speed in that 01. He's got some damage. Something happened here.
Yeah, that 01 has had a couple of hiccups here tonight. He actually has had a fairly lengthy pit stop already in the Skalicki's Auto Repair number 01 machine. Finds himself being scored 26th now, 2 laps down, I do believe. So a tough break for him. James Lorello is the only driver to take it to the garage so far after his contact with the wall in turn number 1. Meanwhile, back up at the front, Doug Mullins not allowing the number 2 machine to get anywhere, but the 2 is reeling in Christopher Bouchard, so we might have a battle for the race lead once again. I'm sure Greg Evans, has he learned from his mistake? Did he get a little bit of wheel hop? Did he send it off into the sand there due to some wheel hop? Not 100% sure. I didn't see any wheel hop on that race car, but definitely might have just followed AJ Digby off the racetrack. But nonetheless, good battle for the race lead here. The top 3 have pulled away just a little bit from Woody Mahan in the number 84 machine, who sits in 4th, and AJ Digby sitting in 5th. last time by. Doug Mullins continues to be the fastest car on the racetrack, and here comes the number 18 machine to the inside of the number 2, right down up into the bus stop. Evans late on the brakes, though, outbrakes the number 18 machine. That was a power move by Greg Evans.
I believe we found a replay of what set this up there as Evans caught the curb there in turn number 4, coming up on the bus stop as Mullins gets the run. But watch this power move out of Greg Evans here on the outside. Just roars back around. But Peter, tick-tock, and I'm not talking about the app because Doug Mullins is the fastest car on the racetrack right now, and he is trying to close it back in on Greg Evans. And what this is doing is allowing Chris Bouchard to focus purely on what's going on out the windshield with his Ford Mustang.
Yeah, and one thing we have to keep in mind is we are closing in on the halfway mark of what is expected to be the first run. We expect to see these drivers pitting about 12 laps or so from now. They have 12 laps on their tires, so all these drivers now starting to settle into the long run pace. And Greg, we saw a lot of these drivers in qualifying in the 110 brackets. Well, Doug Mullins has the fastest lap of this race at a 1 minute 10.862, so 9/10 off what they ran as the pole time of AJ Digby. But now we've fallen down into the 1 minute 14s throughout the field, so that's a pretty significant fall off as the 50 has a huge wiggle and the 2 machine is off the racetrack there. And just like that, moved Doug Mullins up into second, taking advantage of that mistake by the number 2 machine. We'll see that one on the 3-Way TV replay, Greg.
Taking a look at what happened here. It starts in the bus stop for Bouchard as he has a bobble right there, has to keep it out of the grass, but Mullins able to rock it around the outside, returning the favor to Greg Evans. But I've been keeping an eye not just on the replay, but on the battle live right now. One more look on board with Doug Mullins. As you see right there, Evans getting in the grass again, and Mullins able to shoot around on the outside, but Evans came charging back. Could not complete the pass, but we're back live now, and you see that Greg Evans is not going away from Doug Mullins. Meanwhile, Mullins, though, is closing on Bouchard, but he got all kinds of squirrely there off the turn number 1.
Yeah, great save there by Mullins. He hit the curbing on the exit of turn number 1, kicked the rear end of that number 18 machine sideways, got to whoa it up just a little bit, still holds on to that second spot with the number 2 of Greg Evans back behind him. But that number 18 machine, we've seen him be fast, and here's where Bouchard struggled last time by. Kicked out the rear end of that number 50 machine as he was going through the bus stop. This time, seems like everything is okay, and he will continue on as your race leader, but those 2 cars behind him quite close. And then we have a side-by-side battle a little bit further back. There's AJ Digby. He just lost the position to the number 29 machine of Will Warser as they went through the carousel, turn number 5. And now Brian Yazik in the HPPSimulation.com Ford starting to close in. As Yazik has opened up a gap to the Slice Porcupines number 11 of Seville sitting at 8th. Jimmy McKee in 9th just had a little bit of an off-track excursion. You saw that in the back of your picture, as well as John Jenkins in the number 7 also went for an off-track excursion. So turn number
trouble
6.
for second. Doug Mullins, Greg Evans, they get together. Going into turn number 1, Mullins with some wheel hop into turn number 1. Taking a look at the 3-Way TV replay, Bouchard had to chase it down on the front stretch, and coming into turn number 1, some net code there between Mullins and Evans, and wow, that is big here for this one, Peter.
I don't know if that was net code or whether or not the 18 shifted down a little bit too early. The way it kicked out was very strange. I almost think like he might have shifted down a little bit, maybe didn't rev match or something, and that number 18 machine definitely braking sideways. That's definitely gonna, he's definitely gonna lose a lot of ground to the top 2 as Bouchard and Evans now very close. Yeah, you didn't hear a missed shift there on the number 18 machine, so maybe it was net code. I don't know. That was definitely strange there, but nonetheless. Mullins now going to find himself a couple of seconds back behind the number 2 machine. In fact, that gap right now about 2.25 seconds between those race cars. But Greg Evans now all over the back bumper of Bouchard. We saw a couple of cars on pit road already. Ed Bray and Woody Mahan, not Woody Mahan, Lee Staples, in the number 26 machine. Those 2 cars just now coming off pit road out amongst a lot of these leaders, but Now can Greg Evans finally get to the race lead? Greg, I mean, we've seen him be pretty much second the whole race. We saw him he got shuffled back just a little bit. Got back up into second, but he hasn't been able to get to the race lead just yet.
He a third of the way through this already. Here we go. Bouchard catching the curve there through the bus stop, but able to gun the gas and get back out there. But here comes Evans once again. Going to be a third through this one, this time by at the strike. Look at Evans, the runs he gets on corner exit. Trying to reel in first Bouchard, or first Digby, now Bouchard. As they come through turn 6 towards turn number 7. 50 car Bouchard. His tires are shot. Look out, big slide out of him. This guy, I believe, could finally be the moment that Greg Evans needed to get the race lead.
Greg Evans in the number 2 machine. He does have his nose out front. Greg Evans will lead the lap, and he has the preferred line down into turn number 1. The 50 of Bouchard fights back a little bit later on the binders, but the 50 goes for a slide, and he's going to lose a ton of time to the race lead of Greg Evans, and Evans scoots away now, already over a second between the top 2. Doug Mullins now holding a little bit of a train of cars, including the 66 of Ed Bray and Lee Staples. In the 26, those cars are lapped down. They just pitted for fresh tires. But the number 29 machine, Greg, of Will Worcer, he's closed in a little bit on both the 18 and the 84s. Will Worcer gets a little bit of a tap from behind, and Worcer's going to have to go through. And Lee Staples coming back across the racetrack. Who was that? That was A.J. Digby going rally crossing there. There was definite contact there between Will Worcer and the 26 of Lee Staples here. Here we go on board with the number 14 machine. You see Staples there going for a little bit of a slide, and Digby had to avoid it by going off into the grass. So that all started when the 26 made a little bit of contact with the rear end of that number 29 machine. Look, you can see the 29 of Worcester, he just kind of went through the bus stop, said, I'm not even going to try and make the corner. He did have to serve a little bit of a slowdown time penalty that iRacing gives him, but he is going to lose out a couple of spots here. He's going to drop back down to 6th. Yazik now up into the top 5 in the 55 machine, so good job by Yazik here. Qualified 8th, now up into 5th. Digby, however, so far the biggest loser in the field. In fact, Digby is on pit road right now, so he's had enough of those old Goodyear tires. He's going to come down to his pit box all the way down at the end of pit road here, Greg, to put on some 4 fresh tires.
Yeah, he's going to get those 4 fresh sticker tires. Remember, tire limits in effect here in the Hacksaw PC's Premier Series, so taking advantage of having a fresh set. Meanwhile, Greg Evans, I'm wondering the situation on his tires, because he has been pushing it very hard, Peter, throughout the course of the race, just trying to get to the lead. Now he's finally in the lead, but with how hard he was wheeling that thing to get around the likes of Mullen, Digby, and Bouchard earlier in the day, how much of his tires have been abused as he goes off tracking a little bit there. Here comes Bouchard right back up. I think we may have just got our answer.
Yeah, but look at Bouchard sliding all over the racetrack. Those two up the front riding on ice right now. Their tires are completely shot. We're now just about 5 laps away from the halfway mark. So presumably these drivers will be pitting quite soon, and they get off these tires. Meanwhile, the 55 machine of Brian Yazik has hit pit road. There he is at pit road speed coming down to his box. But Greg, one driver I was keeping my eye on before he got a little bit of a knock in the right rear corner was Will Worcester in the number 29 machine. He's 5.8 seconds back, but he was closing in on the top 4 cars when he had that little bit of a contact and went through that slide through the bus stop. In fact, he still is closing in, as he is one of the fastest cars out there on the racetrack on those older tires. So good job by Will Worcester here to hold on to those tires, save them just a little bit. We saw him drop back and lose ground on the front 5 in the early going, but definitely showing some late run pace. He's going to need a little bit more of that as this race goes on. In fact, Greg, if I'm Will Worcester, we have a car stopped. Car stopped coming out of turn number 6. It's the 01 machine of Brad Lee. Let's see if we can see what happened here to that race car, as we're also seeing the 18 of Doug Mullins on pit road. Let's see if we can go back just a little bit further. Here he goes down this back straight. And as he goes off into this final corner, there's AJ Digby, and it just kind of looked like he swerved to the right to not turn in on that number 14 machine and then out into the tire barrier just like that. The 0-1's night goes from bad to worse.
Yeah, tough one there for Bradley. Doug Mullins on pit road in the number 18, was running up in the 3rd position. Remember, was going for the lead. Had that little slip up in turn number 1, trying to get back on it here. He may have caught a little bit of a curb coming off pit road there as he comes up just in front of Brian Yazik, able to get going in the number 18, but Yazik still able to carry the momentum around. We'll see where he cycles through here. But boy, Peter, I'm worried about the tire situation on the 50 of Chris Bouchard. I've been keeping my eye on him for the last few laps. He has been slipping and sliding and just about any other word you can think of to describe a loose handling race car. Those tires on the 50 car, I am a little concerned about them right now. And I think it's just a matter of time before we see heat come down. And I believe Will Worcster's coming down pit road in the number 29.
Yeah, that number 29 machine on pit road right now. The Slice Berkey Pints number 29 coming down to his pit box. We saw Doug Mullins in the 18 come down last time by his teammates. So some of the Will Worcester racing machines having a little bit of similar strategy coming down here just before the halfway mark. So presumably with this race being a one-stop race, they're going to have to go quite a long way on those tires here to close out tonight's event. There's the number 2 machine, your current race leader, Greg Evans, going off track just a little bit there, and the right-hander that puts you into turn number 5 as he works his way down the carousel right now. Christopher Bouchard closed in just a little bit this lap in that number 50 machine. Meanwhile, we got a train of cars here. These are some of the cars on fresher tires. The 55 of Yazik and the number 18 of Doug Mullins as they race one another. Now, the undercut is an interesting strategy that you can use on road courses. Of course, if you're not familiar with the terminology, an undercut is when you pit just a little bit sooner than the cars in front of you and use those fresh tires to pick up ground. An overcut is the opposite. It's where you stay out longer and see if you can pick up positions later on fresher tires later on in the event. But the reason that the undercut is used more often as a strategy is because of what you're seeing right here. The 55 of Yazik pitted just a little bit before Mullins, and now the 55 has the ability to make it difficult for the 18 to get around him. So he can block all he wants to and try and keep those cars behind him. Meanwhile, we've got a bunch of cars on pit road here, Greg, including Woody Mahan and the 11 of Seville.
In 3rd and 4th place, Woody Mahan and Tyler Seville coming down pit road, leaving Evans and Bouchard out there. And Bouchard is closing back in, but a couple of cars pitting here, Peter. So we're starting to see more and more drivers dip down pit road, wondering if it's just a matter of time before we start seeing our race leaders, Greg Evans and Chris Bouchard, down pit road. 12 seconds back to the next car that is still out there, Peter. It's the number 8 of Jimmy McKee. So that shows you just how big a lead these two have opened up. We'll see if they make the right turn. Nope, they're staying out there. So they are slipping and sliding, but they're hanging on to these race cars for now. But it's a long way back to 3rd place Jimmy McKee and 4th place your points here, John Jenkins, up in the top 5 for the first time today.
Yeah, Jimmy McKee with McKee Lawn Care Services on that machine, sitting in the 3rd position. There's your current points leader, John Jenkins, sitting in the now 3rd position as Jimmy McKee in the 8 comes down pit road. Adam Jertsky in the 69 Beef Jerseys Cheesecake machine also on pit road with him. So things continuing to cycle through here just a little bit before the halfway mark. We will be halfway exactly 1 lap from now. So we'll have to see these leaders on pit road here shortly, I would presume. Now, the big question is how much ground have they lost to the drivers who are on the fresher tires out there? We've seen that, a couple of these drivers pitted way earlier than these cars, and with the tire fall off, your front 2 drivers are running in the 1:14.5, 1:14.6 second bracket. When I say that, I mean 1 minute 14 and a half seconds. Here comes the 2 machine down pit road, and Bouchard, huge slide coming out of turn number 7 onto the start-finish line straight. And Bouchard able to get that number 50 all woed up. We'll have to see how this all works out for Greg Evans. But Evans here pitting just a little bit before the halfway mark. But remember, I was just about to mention it, Greg. about 3 seconds, a lap faster, the cars on fresh tires versus that number 2 machine. So, and the number 50 machine who's still out there on the racetrack. So it seems like there could be some cars, that jump them here temporarily.
It'll be very interesting, Peter, to see how it goes once these guys do come down pit road, mainly Bouchard in the number 50. I believe we're a little bit past halfway. We've just passed the halfway point of this one. So Bouchard and Evans proving you can make it on one stop here and cut the race in half. But how bad are the tires on the number 50 and how bad were the tires on the number 2 of Greg Evans? That is the question. The other question remaining, Peter, is does Bouchard dip down pit road now in the number 50 that he's back in the lead? Another big slide in the turn. He's coming down pit road. He is saying, get me for Mr. Feelgood, that he catches the cone.
Yeah, the cone is stuck on the front end of that number 50 machine, and that could cause issues for that number 50. If you get that cone stuck underneath your car in iRacing, it sometimes causes havoc with the handling and speed of that race car. It's kind of a 50-50 deal. We'll have to see if that pit crew can get rid of the cone. Yes, they do. So that's good news for Bouchard as he heads down pit road. Here comes the 72 of Krobach. But this is going to cycle things through here, Greg, because right now John Jenkins is the only car out there on the racetrack who has yet to pit. He is your current points leader. But Doug Mullins in the number 18 machine, he is currently sitting in second. He's the first car who has come down pit road. He's got 5 laps on those tires. You can see that right up there at the top of your screen. Brian Miozik has 6 laps on his tires. And then sitting in the 3rd position of the cars who have come down pit road was your race leader, Greg Evans. So now Mullins and Miozik have the opportunity to make life a little bit difficult for the number 2 of Evans if they so wish, and see if they can hold on to that top spot. Another thing that we heard, Greg, was that these tires, once you got, X number of laps on them, they kind of plateau around the 1 minute 14 second mark. And we started to see that amongst drivers like Greg Evans. So maybe the 2 cars are kind of out there being the hares, if you will, trying to get themselves enough of a gap to get to that tire plateau. And here's the number 7 of Jenkins, who might be thinking the opposite. Hey, my tires are already plateaued. Maybe I can run this out a little bit longer and see if I can be faster at the end, because he is continuing to stay out there on the racetrack.
We heard that the fuel can go about 34 laps in these cars, Peter, so you can realistically go another 9 laps on fuel if you're John Jenkins. The question is, are you willing to do that when you're the only car who hasn't been out there? As you see him all kinds of hopping through the bus stop chicane there into the carousel. So here's that question, is it worth it staying out for an entire fuel run when you know everyone behind you is on fresher tires and they are running significantly faster than you? For reference, Jenkins' last lap time of minute 14.9, so practically a minute 15. Second place, Doug Mullins, a minute 12.9. Brian Yazik also a minute 12.9. So he's given up 2 seconds a lap right now, and he has decided that, nope, not worth it, I'm coming down pit road. So John Jenkins makes it 25 laps before he comes down. Now the question is, how long can he have that advantage over the rest of the field? Don't look now, though, because Greg Evans is already up to 3rd.
Yeah, not this past time by, but the lap before that, Greg Evans ran the 3rd fastest lap of the entire race, a 1 minute 10.906. That is only faster by himself earlier in the race on lap number 2, as well as the number 18 machine, I do believe, who ran a 1 minute 10.86 earlier in the race. So Greg Evans absolutely flying here as a 1 minute 11.521 last time by to Yazik's 1 minute 13.1. But Yazik, how difficult is he going to make it for Greg Evans? Well, that answers that question as Evans scoots on by the number 55 HPPsimulation.com Ford. Now he can set his sights on the race leader, Doug Mullins, in the Slice Perky Pints machine. Mullins very, very fast earlier on. Will Mullins be as easy letting the number 2 by. We'll have to wait and see there. There's the number 14 machine, AJ Digby. He was your pole sitter here, currently running down in the 9th position. It seemed like he didn't do a great job of saving his tires in that first run. Also had a couple of offs. And AJ Digby here kind of struggling in the middle of portion of this race. He has some of the older tires out there on the racetrack right now. So drivers like Jimmy McKee and John Jenkins starting to close in on him just a little bit. So we'll have to keep an eye on that as this run goes on. In fact, possibly a little bit of trouble for Digby last time by. He was well off the pace in that number 14 machine. We'll have to possibly go back and see what happened to AJ Digby, hearing that it might have had an issue in the carousel, because that number 14 machine definitely was slow through that sector of the racetrack. And getting word that he made some pretty hefty contact with the tire barriers coming out of the carousel, coming out of the bus stop into the carousel. Meanwhile, battle for the race lead, Greg.
Did you see the slide out of Doug Mullins there in the 18? Coming out of turn number 5 down that straightaway. Greg Evans is putting pressure on him as Mullins picked up his first win in ASRS competition last week. Greg Evans, second all-time in wins. That's what's racing for the lead right now as Mullins another slide there. The right-hander is not being too kind to Doug Mullins right now in the 18. He's trying to hold on for that first Hacksaw PC's Premier Series victory. He goes down into turn number 1. Trying to keep the 2 at bay. We saw this a lot first half of the race, Peter. Greg Evans trying to hang in there with someone, staying on his bumper, whether it was Mullins, Bouchard, or Digby. Once he got around him, it was smooth sailing, but we saw Evans perhaps struggling to get around some guys as they come up on the slower traffic of Richard Fletcher.
Yeah, and really the field is going to have to watch out for this number 2 machine. Christopher Bouchard, who has slightly fresher tires than the 2 of Evans, finds himself 6 seconds behind these 2 as Greg Evans looking to the inside, going to make it look easy through the carousel. That's where he got the number 55 of Yazik just a couple laps ago. And here again, making the move through turn number 5, and new race leader, the number 2 of Greg Evans, back to the point here at Watkins Glen.
Took Evans about, 9-10 laps to get back to the lead after the pit stop. The question is now, Peter, lap traffic up ahead, a couple of cars up there. Edward Bray and Lee Staples up there, and we've seen Staples have some trouble already today. He's going to move out of the way for Greg Evans in the 2. Ed Bray next up on the list. Here it took 5 laps to get Evans back to the lead. We're already coming up on the 2/3 of the way here, Mark, Peter, as we're working lap number 29 of 45. Has Evans trying to pull away. He opened up a big lead there on Doug Mullins. Great run through the S's by Evans.
Yeah, absolutely. Do want to highlight tonight's race sponsor, Falcon Race Wraps. If you need a race car design, if you need a wrap for a race car, whether it's a real one or whether you need an iRacing scheme, make sure you check out Falcon Race Wraps. Been in the business for quite some time now. Make some very high quality race wraps for race cars, no matter really what the race car is. If you are a driver who races weekly at your local short track, or whether or not you're a professional driver out there and you're a team owner and whatnot, go check them out. Definitely able to produce some very high quality wraps for your vehicles. I know, of course, wraps, they're pretty cool technology. I mean, we saw this past weekend, I think it was Chase Elliott, who ran a paint scheme on Saturday and then completely changed his car overnight with a wrap. His crew did a fantastic job. So they're a very unique thing in racing nowadays, and Falcon Race Wraps can get you with the wrap you're looking for. Meanwhile, I've got a couple cars out there on the racetrack right now who have wraps on their cars, if you will, those iRacing paint schemes, and that's Lee Staples and Ed Bray, 2 teammates, LA Simsport, excuse me. They have those 2 cars together, and they've been running the same strategy back on pit road at the same time. Meanwhile, here is the number 50 of Bouchard trying to run down a couple of cars in front of him. Bouchard, one of the last takers on pit road. He's caught the 55 of Yazik and Mullins sitting in 2nd and 3rd. Bouchard himself got up into 4th, got around Woody Mahan in turn number 1 this past lap. And contact! Brian Yazik in the 55 machine kicking it sideways and heavy into the outside wall in turn number 5. And Yazik got a lot of front end damage. That is a huge break. Huge disaster, I should say. The very opposite of a break, because that car is now broken. the number 55 HPPsimulation.com machine nosing it into the wall there. Very tough break.
He's not going to be happy about that, Peter. He was having such a good run in the number 55, the HPP Simulations Ford, and now heavy to him in the number 50. Looks like we may have another replay. Here's perhaps something happened. Oh, the 50 of Bouchard having some connection issues. That is a guy who led some laps, and he has fallen out of the server. Oh my goodness.
And
That is because that is what's going on in the standings right there.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we were just thinking about Bouchard closing in on the top 5, and now he's going to go out of this race, presumably. I mean, he isn't back in the server yet, so, and we just saw the confirmation that iRacing has kicked him out of the server for a timeout situation, so Bouchard goes to being very much on the bubble. We talked about earlier how he just needed to come out of this race with a solid finish, and he'd pretty much be okay at Daytona. Now he's going to be on his heels when we go to the Firecracker 200 next week. Of course, round 7 is Surf Pro Wheelman Showdown, but tonight's Falcon Race Wraps at the Glen not going the way Christopher Bouchard wanted. Brian Yazik in the 55 did come down pit road, I believe, in that race car. I'm not 100% sure if he took full service or not. Yes, he did. He took 4 tires on that race car. It doesn't look like all too much damage as Yazik back out there on the racetrack, but he's going to be well down the order. I think he just wanted to check out how much damage he had on that race car. So we'll see just how far Yazik can climb in the last few laps here.
Peter, who does this benefit more than anything? The 50 car falling out of the session like this. Who does that benefit? The guy in third.
The man in third. Yep, absolutely. Mahan, there he is. Mahan Speed Laboratories on that car. We talked about how he needed a good night and he needed a little bit of luck earlier in the race from the number 50 machine. Well, he got it. And now Woody Mahan sits in third, looking at a good points night here. And does that open the door for some of the other cars who were out on the outside looking in? We're going to have to find out. It could be an interesting race next week at Daytona to find out who will be the 12 cars making their way into the Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series playoffs. It will be a very, very fun playoffs because I'll tell you what, Greg, there are some awesome tracks, including Darlington, Richmond, Charlotte, Bristol, Vegas, Talladega, and then the final 5 races with the final 4, Rockingham, Texas, Martinsville, Phoenix, rounding out the season. And of course, right at the end of the season, a non-championship race, the All-Star race at Las Vegas, to kind of round out 2020. But those 4 final races, Rockingham, Texas, Martinsville, and Phoenix, those are going to be 4 spectacular races. But we still have quite some time. The final 4 round of the playoff starts in October. But Greg, back out there on the racetrack, Greg Evans has got himself up to a 6-second lead over the number 18 machine of Mullins. And remember, Evans pitted much later than that number 18 machine. In fact, Evans right now pretty much pulling away from all of the race cars out there. This man in his own zip code already, turning fast lap time after fast lap time. And with fairly fresh tires on that number 2 machine, it would have to take a mistake from him for the field to catch him, I do believe.
It took him a while to get up to the lead, Peter, but once he did, he was gone. We're taking a look at the number 11 of Tyler Seville, 2 wins on the season. A few laps ago, we were caught up in the situation with Brian Yazik, but a few laps ago, Tyler Seville had a moment as well where he went off into the grass and the gravel off of turn number 6, has since recovered and is just about to try to get that spot that he lost back as he is caught back up to his car owner. There he is, Will Worsler, in the number 29. But Seville, a nice recovery after having a moment about 3 or 4 laps ago while we were caught up in the Yazik situation.
Yeah, so a lot of action happening here on the racetrack. Just 12 more laps to go around Watkins Glen International. There's Tim Knott. Haven't really talked about that number 41 machine, currently down in the 21st position. He's battling with the number 28 machine of Troy Haight for the 20th spot right now. It actually just got around him, so good job there by Tim Knott. He's trying to close in on the 03 of Tanner Sharp. Still got quite a long way to get to the back bumper of the number 03 machine, but still a few laps to do so. There you see your race leader trying to close in on Alan Young, who's the last car on the lead lap right now, just now going into turn number 1. So Alan Young finding himself on the cusp of falling a lap down. Jackson Van Valkenburg, the next car in front of him in 17. You see them snaking their way up through the S's, now onto the long back straight here. That number 23 machine, his race did not start the way he was hoping it to, with a little bit of problems going up through the S's on lap number 1. He's got some rear end damage to show for it that he's raced with all race long, and I kind of wonder whether or not that affected the race pace of that machine or not, as you see Alan Young trying to close in for that 17th position. Van Valkenburg qualified 17th, Alan Young qualified 18th, and that's exactly where they run currently out there on the racetrack. Biggest mover in the field here tonight, Greg. Well, we've seen a lot of comers and goers, and I'll tell you what, the biggest mover of this race currently just so happens to be that man right there, the number 53 of John Broussard. He's gained 8 positions in that race car over the course of this event, qualified 24th, and now he's running in 16th. And I said it at the top of the show, Greg, to finish first here at the Glen, pretty much at any road course, you have to minimize your mistakes. And here tonight, we've seen a couple of drivers, very, very fast race cars, make some mistakes, and it has really hit them hard.
It has, and that's just the product of road course racing. You can have such a strong race, and then all of a sudden something happens that knocks you out. And unfortunately, that man on screen right there, AJ Digby, one of those drivers, led the first few laps of this one, looking very stout after qualifying on the pole. Oh, Ed Bray, the 66, went for a ride there off of turn number 7, I believe it was, as he just shot down pit road. I'm not sure what happened there. It almost looked like he just decided at the last second to turn down pit road. I think he may have had some help here, Peter.
I think he just lit up the rear tires a little bit too much and just turned it into the inside wall. That's one way to get on pit road with a little bit of half spin. Oh, there was the 24 machine. Caught a quick peek of him having an off there. Alan Young with the Young Gun Creations machine going through the turn number 6 gravel. Back up onto the racetrack. He will fall 1 lap down, so we're down to 16 cars now on the lead lap, as Van Valkenburg did lose that position, at least temporarily, to Alan Young. But Broussard now finds himself the last car on the lead lap, the biggest mover in the race. He's had a clean race. There's not a scratch on that number 53 machine. That's the good news for Broussard. Bad news is he finds himself mired down the field. Here we go, back 3-wide TV replay. Here comes Van Valkenburg. And, Van Valkenburg going through a slide there in the bus stop. Man, that's a long slide there, Greg. Good job to get that thing wound up and not end up in the tire barriers.
Yeah, that was a good job there by Van Valkenburg. Making his return to the series. Been a while since we've seen him in this series, so good to have him back. Unfortunately, not going the day not going the way, Peter, that he wanted it to. But a guy who is having a day he wants is Greg Evans in that number 2 car. What a stout performance for him in the number 2. Leading the most laps here. We're inside 10 to go. I believe we're going to be 8 to go at the line, and he has been far and away the dominant car.
Yeah, that number 2 machine was still one of the fastest cars out there on the racetrack. Only cars faster than him, Brian Yazik and John Jenkins on the lead lap. And Yazik just recently pitted here. Oh, man, that's the number 1 machine going through the bus stop there. The 01 machine back there stopped before entry to the bus stop. So not quite sure if the 01 and the 1 had a little bit of a coming together, but nonetheless, the 01 is back going there. The Skalicki's Auto Repair 01 of Brad Lee working his way around the racetrack. Definitely not the day he was looking for. You see Hacksaw on the back. Got to give a huge shout out to Hacksaw PCs, the series sponsor of the Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series. Make sure you go check them out if you're in the market for a new computer. The series champion this year of the Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series does end up with one of those Hacksaw PCs, and they've kind of opened it up that if the driver who gets it wants to modify it, they're definitely open to, working together to get the champion what they want. And Gotta say, definitely a great partner of this series. Make sure you go check them out if you're in the market for a new PC. Don't buy one of those Dells, folks. I gotta say, don't go out and buy a Hewlett Packard. Don't go out and buy one of the big ones because they fill up your computer with a bunch of bloatware. And definitely check out Hacksaw PCs because they're gonna give you a good PC for a good price. And definitely got to support them as one of the smaller, PC makers out there, and especially with this pandemic going on. So huge shout out, great sponsor of the American Sim Racing Series. But back out there on the racetrack, we do see the number 29 machine being hounded by his teammate, last week's race winner from North Wilkesboro, Tyler Seville. Greg.
Yeah, good battle here between the Will Worsler Racing entries, between Worsler and Seville. 3 wins combined for them this season to go along with Craig Stykes' win at Talladega earlier this year. Those were the wins for Will Worsler Racing this season. AJ Digby's win at Iowa, the satellite driver as well. But this has been such a great battle between Seville and Worsler for about the last 8 or 9 laps, Peter, as Seville getting a run on the outside here as they go towards turn number 6. And wow, he just blew past Worsler there on the outside. Great move there by Seville.
Yeah, we also got a battle right now brewing for the 9th position. Brian Yazik has caught AJ Digby. Yazik on slightly fresher tires, and Yazik just going to dive to the inside of the number 14. I think that battle is just about over as Yazik clears the 14 coming out of turn number 5. Now down this long stretch into turn number 6. Like I said, Yazik recently pitted after making contact with the turn 5 outside wall with a little bit of help from Christopher Bouchard. So Yazik here in a little bit of recovery mode, bouncing himself back up into the top 10. So good job by Yazik after that heavy contact. I almost thought that number 55 machine was completely toast, but he does have a long way to catch his teammate, the number 72 of Michael Krobach, who currently sits in the 8th position. No scratches on the HPPSimulation.com number 72 machine here tonight. I'm sure Krobach will be happy with that performance, getting himself up into the 8th position, qualified back in lucky number 13. So it's been a lucky race for him so far, knock on wood. Just 6 more laps to go here at Watkins Glen.
Good race here for Krobach in the 72, keeping it clean. And Peter, he's been spending a lot of time in road course in some open wheel cars, has Michael Krobach in the number 72. So that is paying off quite a bit here for him with this nice solid top 10 run in the number 72. As we take a look at some other drivers throughout the field, Cody Spiker, the 19, Sam Crow, the 5. Haven't mentioned them a whole lot tonight, but some solid runs for them as well. They both sit in the top 15. That's for 14th right now, that battle on screen right now. So some good battles spaced throughout the field. And that's one of the things that's special here about Watkins Glen is there's always something going on. It's not like some other road courses where the thing gets spread out and then all of a sudden it's just cars riding around. No, there's action all over the place constantly here at Watkins Glen, and there's always something going on to talk about.
Oh yeah, absolutely. This is a great racetrack, not only for the fact that it flows very nicely. I'm sure a lot of, the 11 of Seville is off the racetrack. That's the tires, Tyler. And oh man, just barely missed them. Got that huge little jump that we saw him go over. We'll see if we can see what happened here going into the bus stop. There we go. Definitely looks like he just overshot the first apex. And as you can see, that's that snowballing effect I talked about a little bit earlier. You missed the first one and it goes really bad, really fast. That also allowed the number 7 machine of John Jenkins to move back up into the top 5. So good run here for your series points leader. The Max Pappas Innovations number 7 machine getting around Seville. Now we'll have to see if he can close in on Worsler in the number 29. Remember, Jenkins was one of the late adopters to pit road, so he has fresher tires than some of the cars around him. And he's only 3 seconds behind the number 29 machine. Here we go, looking back a little bit further. Here's the number 5 of Sam Crow and Cody Spiker doing battle. 14th and 15th spots on the racetrack right now. In fact, Sam Crow currently finds himself as the last car on the lead lap, just in front of the number 2 machine. You don't see Greg Evans on the same straightaway just yet. There you see him. But that battle for the 14th position, red hot right now, as Cody Spiker has it, and Sam Crow wants that position here in the closing laps. Just 3 to go this time by.
Yeah, trying to close in. That's a good battle. But how about this guy on screen right now? Woody Mahan in the 84 needed a good points day, and he has done just that, riding in the 3rd position with the problems for Bouchard, this is a crucial day in Mahan's push for the playoffs. Just one more race before the playoffs after this, and Mahan on the outside looking in right now, but this run right here has proven that he is not done yet, doing a great job in the number 84 here tonight.
Yeah, you're looking at like a 19 or 20 point swing or so for that spot needed. A lot of ground to catch up. We'll see if we can bring up that points graphic here just to show you how much ground he did need to make up in that race car. Right there, 42 points the gap coming into tonight, and about half of that's going to be erased going into Daytona next week. Firecracker 200 Surf Pro Wheelman Showdown, race number 7. Definitely what Woody Mahan wanted to see at this racetrack here tonight, currently running in the 3rd position. John Jenkins still continuing to close in on the number 29 machine of Will Worcester. Will we see a last lap battle for the 4th spot here brewing? Meanwhile, Greg Evans here. Greg just working his way through turn number 6 into turn number 7. We'll see 2 laps to go this time by.
Yeah, Greg Evans has been a dominant driver here tonight, Peter. He took him a little bit, like we mentioned, to get up to the lead, but once he did, it was smooth sailing from there. Looking for win number 9 on the season in that number 2 car. Just 2 laps away from it, has had a spectacular drive, and it has just been another classic Greg Evans run here today.
Yeah, and you know what? I think that's the first time in this broadcast we've brought up the fact that Greg Evans is going for win number 9 on the season. Just absolutely amazing out of that number 2 machine. Fast every week. Pulled it off the truck here tonight at Watkins Glen. Wasn't the fastest in qualifying. He got up to 2nd on the opening lap. Had a few little scuffles, and here he is almost with a 10-second lead. I mean, this is such a dominating performance by that number 2 machine just now coming out of turn number 5. You'll see the white flag here shortly as we continue to ride on board with him into turn number 6. Watch how late he is on the brakes here. Uses up as much of that racetrack on entry right down there to the apex. Watch him use up that racetrack on the outside. Here he goes into turn number 7. We'll see if he stalls on the wheel. Nope. I'll tell you what, Greg, he didn't stall on that wheel, and that just shows how smooth of a race car driver he is.
It has been a very nice run for him. White flag is out. 1 lap to go for Greg Evans, looking for his 9th win of the season. And he's just 2.5 miles from doing just that, Peter.
Battle starting to brew just a little bit for 4th. Is Will Worcester just too far out front of John Jenkins? That gap now down to 1.1 seconds. Worcester sliding it through turn number 1. Ooh, Jenkins looks like he ran possibly a little bit wide through turn number 1. Will that give Worcester the position? We'll have to wait and find out. Greg Evans going through the bus stop for the final time into turn number 5. Has a little bit of lap traffic out front of him, but don't think he will catch them as he works his way now down to the short back stretch. Just 2 more corners for win number 9 on the season. New paint scheme on that number 2 machine this week. Bright yellow, you can't miss it. Alliance Truck Parts as he works his way into turn number 6. The sweeping left-hander now gonna sweep it back to the right. Checkered flag in the flag man's hand. Coming out of the final corner, Greg Evans wins the Falcon Race Wraps at the Glen. Win number 9 on the season.
Unbelievable performance. What a season for Greg Evans. Going to close in a little bit more on John Jenkins, who's 5th right now. Doug Mullins able to hang on for a 2nd. I believe that's a career best finish in the Cup Series for him, with Woody Mahan, a huge run for him to finish in 3rd, rounding out the podium. Will Worcester going to come home 4th, Jenkins 5th. And after that, it's still on, but Greg Evans wasted no time getting the celebrating done here in turn number 1, Peter.
Yeah, Will Worcester was able to hold on to that 4th position. Like you said, Jenkins coming home in 5th, Seville 6th, Jimmy McKee, the McKee Lawn Care Services machine. He comes home in 7th. Great run for him. Michael Krobach in the 72, just a couple seconds back behind McKee, coming home in 8th. Brian Yazik, good recovery for him to finish in 9th. Your pole sitter, AJ Digby, rounds out your top 10, and then you have a couple cars still out there finishing, but looks like Cody Spiker and Sam Crow, they're side by side going through turn number 6. Spiker going through the grass, the 5 going through the grass as well. This is a battle for the 14th position, and I'll tell you what, folks, oh my, there was a little bit of contact going into turn number 6 for that 14th position. They were still out there finishing, and Spiker's going to cross the line in 14th. But a little bit of excitement right there on the final lap there, Greg. We'll see if we can catch this one on the replay.
Let's see on the 3YTV replay. Final turn for the position. We saw this battle earlier, and there you see it just going off there. Wow. Definitely a wild one there. And no doubt, Spiker and Crow going to be a bit worked up after that finish.
Yeah, and it was kind of a race for whoever got back to the tarmac first. And I'm not all too convinced that maybe Sam Crow said, hey, you know what, that was all me. That was my fault. I'm going to let off the gas here just a little bit and give you back that spot. But definitely Sam Crow did send it up the inside for the 14th position. And folks, 14th position doesn't really sound like much, but these are race car drivers. I'll tell you what, they want every single spot that they can get, Greg. And myself as a race car driver, I'm the same way, man. It's the last lap. You want every position you can get, and you have a lot of fun out there on the racetrack. As a man out there who's having a lot of fun burning it down, the number 2 of Greg Evans, showing us how it's done once again.
Unbelievable race, Peter. Well, that wraps it up here racing action-wise at Watkins Glen. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk to our top 3 and run it down as post-race show is coming up next here on 3YTV.
Welcome to Sliced Pizza Bar, where we're passionate about great pizza. All of our food is made fresh daily using only the finest ingredients and techniques. Our chefs put their heart and soul into each pie, and we're sure you'll taste the difference. Located on both Indian Rocks and Madeira beaches, chances are we're right around the corner for your next pizza night or dinner date. Come give us a try and experience the slice difference.
The most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $100,000 in annual prizes. This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Life happens everywhere. Like it never even happened, only happens here. The cleanup and restoration specialists at 1-800-SERVPRO and ServPro.com.
wins, building some momentum, moving towards the grand finale at Daytona next week for the regular season. We'll see you next week.
All right.
And what? Oh.
Hey guys, do apologize. I just realized that I had the mics muted. So we interviewed third place and second place, and hopefully we can get them back again to do another interview. Do apologize for this one.
All right. Well, we're gonna line up those 3 interviews for you once again. So let's line up with the third place finisher here tonight, Woody Mahan. And Woody, a great run for you in that number 84 machine here tonight. I mean, you needed a good points tonight. We mentioned it at the top of the show here tonight, both Greg and I, about the cutoff for the playoffs, being that 12th position. And you came into tonight in 13th, 42 markers out of the 12th position. And Woody, tell us a little bit about your night and how important of a run it was.
First off, the night was brutal. I'm sweating. I'm still out of breath at this moment in time. But last week after the race, and I just didn't have it at North Wilkesboro, so I didn't do myself any favors, and I obviously haven't done myself any favors throughout the year. But I knew that from the Xfinity race that we raced, that I had pace. It was just how fast was the 50 going to be, and I needed to finish way in front of him. So it was go like hell.
Well, I mean, you put on a fantastic show here tonight. You were, very fast in that long qualifying session that we had. 40 minutes of qualifying. You qualified up there near the front and again in the race. It seemed like the first half of the race, you might have just been pacing yourself a little bit. In the second half of the race, you definitely minimized your mistakes. That was another thing that Greg and I highlighted at the top of the show, that minimizing mistakes will be the key to finishing up near the front here tonight, and you did.
Yeah, I didn't have an incident, but or even an off track or anything like that. But the very beginning, I was feeling it out to see everybody goes at the beginning, and I'm not really that type of person. I try not to, and I burn the wheels right off of it. So that even when I try not to go, but it was the decision of what's everybody going to do? Are we going to try to one stop it? Are we going to two stop it with the 3 tires? And once everything started to play out and you could see the pace was starting to kind of plateau, then it was, well, it's windy a pit. Before halfway, are you undercutting, overcutting? Yeah. It was a rough run.
Well, regardless of whether it was a rough run or not, you get to toot the horn for Loud Pedal Motorsports here tonight. Next week we go to Daytona, and it's another little bit of a wild card event. I mean, you could find yourself another point swing and find yourself in the top 12 in points. What are your thoughts about Daytona?
I could win the race, or we could literally crash going through the tri-oval taking the green. It is that much of a lottery. And the good news is I wouldn't say I'm Michael Waltrip of plate racing, but I can figure out how to keep my nose clean, and I can push somebody to the front.
I'll tell you what, Woody, we'll be watching out for that number 84 machine next week when we do go to Daytona for the Firecracker 200, round number 7 of the Surf Pro Wheelman Showdown. But I know you got some shout-outs to give, so let's hear them.
Beforehand, do you guys prefer the black or the purple dominant on the car?
Oh, man, I like the purple, man. That little bit of color chrome on your spec map is on point, let me tell you that. So that's my personal favorite.
All right, well, then we'll run the purple then. But big shout outs to all the guys from Mahan Speed Laboratories, making it go fast, and all the boys over at Loud Pedal, Brian and Mike. I think they finished in the top 10, so team did all right tonight. And shout out to Pete and Mark who didn't make it out tonight, but they rode with us.
Absolutely. Well, Woody, congratulations on your podium finish here tonight at Watkins Glen. We'll see you next week at Daytona. Good luck.
See you, boys.
All right, and now we get to interview the second place finisher of Doug Mullins. I believe Greg Rentz has caught up with him.
Yeah, Doug Mullins, Greg Rentz, 3YTV. We had some technical issues on the interview, so didn't get to air that first one. So you got a copy again?
Yeah, I got you.
All right, well, we talked a little bit about your race and kind of how it was up and down, and you were up in the top 5 for a majority of it, but it was back-to-back podiums here, so you're building some momentum here moving forward.
Yeah, definitely. I would say, in for the past, I don't know, a couple months or so, I've been able to string together some pretty consistent runs and strong runs, and road is where I feel that I'm probably most natural at, I guess. So yeah, I mean, you can never be disappointed with a podium finish. I think that I had a little bit more in me than coming in second by 10 seconds. But looking back on it, coming away with a second place finish, if you would have told me that yesterday, I'd have said, yep, sounds good, let's do it. I mean, you always want to go out there and compete for the win, and Greg was pretty overpowering this race. It's hard to blame any one thing or any outside influence whenever you lose by 10 seconds. So it was a good race. Congratulations to Greg for being that dominant out there.
Well, Doug, it was definitely a strong race for you. And tell us about being able to run up there at front and kind of leading the charge for your team, if you will, for Will Worcester Racing. As you mentioned, you were kind of the road course aficionado there, if you will. So what's it like kind of taking the lead for the team here on road courses?
Honestly, it makes it fun because I have something to offer. Whenever I came into ASRS is when I first started iRacing and oval racing. So I've been in this for just over a year. So before this, I was on Gran Turismo Sport, which is all road racing. And, it's nice getting to go into these practice, not just looking for help, but getting to, teach some little things, little tricks or whatnot that have helped me in the past. So that's probably what makes it, the best is just getting to be on the giving end instead of just soaking up everybody else's knowledge.
All right, well, from the twists and turns of Watkins Glen to the wide open restrictor plate, roll the dice of Daytona. Last chance here for the regular season to try to break through, and we're heading to Daytona. You excited?
Yeah, definitely. I'm not the biggest fan of super speedways. I think that it causes some people to drive beyond their talent level. But I think that this should hopefully be the first super speedway that we have our entire team at. And I would say that beyond probably any other team that's not racing pro, I would say we're probably the most close-knit. We're always talking about the race coming up. We're always talking about what happened. Everything is open in our team. We share everything that we have to make everybody faster. And I think it shows with some of the finishes that we've had over the last several weeks. So I think that Daytona will be, I think it'll be a fun race because I think that we'll get to kind of link up and show the teamwork that we pride ourselves on.
All right, well, Daytona coming up. But, Doug, it's your second straight time here on the podium on 3Y TV after the big win on Thursday. So another chance for you to thank the sponsor. So who you got?
Yeah, thanks to Slice. Looking forward. I should be going down to the Tampa area later this week, so I'll be hanging out there. Might have to snap a picture and send it to you guys. Thanks to my team. I wouldn't be anywhere near where I am right now without them. Thanks to the league, Jim and Sam. This is a good league. I wanted to continue, wanted to prosper. I think it's something special that you want to take care of. And thanks to you guys for the broadcast. Looking forward to grabbing a glass of wine and going and watching it.
All right, that's second place, Doug Mullins. Best finish of the season in the Cup Series. Congratulations.
Appreciate it.
And after a long-awaited time, sorry, Peter, but I believe you're down in victory lane with our race winner.
I have caught up with winner of tonight's Falcon race wraps at the Glen 110. Winner for the 9th time this season in the Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series, Mr. Greg Evans. And Greg, sorry for the long wait here on 3Y TV, but man, I bet you're still down there celebrating. What a spectacular run for that number 2 machine here tonight. We saw you have a lot of pace at the other road course race earlier this year at Sonoma, but here getting the job done. Tell us about the key to get into victory lane here tonight.
I think the biggest thing was just being patient. I think the first run I kind of was over aggressive and made a few mistakes, but I was able to get back to the lead and kind of just hold there until we got pit stops. But I think, like I said, it was just backing those corners up and really focusing on saving your rear tires. And that just kind of, it played out the way we needed to. Thankfully, there was no cautions tonight, so that helped out as well. So.
Yeah, we heard you last week here on 3Y TV in the post-race interview say you were so excited to see no cautions here tonight. Of course, the no caution bounty will live on another day. This race didn't count. But Greg, just tell us a little bit how much how much like it was racing with an egg underneath the throttle pedal, because especially on that first run, we saw that back end kick out of that number 2 machine a couple times.
It was almost like if you were behind somebody, you just could not get the run off the corner, and you had to kind of chance it, hoping that the rear tires were there. And there was, was a few times where we got off track. I think me and the 14, I got a run on 14. He kind of blocked me to the inside, and then we both went off, and that kind of just, had to bounce back from that. But racing with Doug and Chris was fun. There was one time me and Chris was going into, or me and Doug was going into one, and I thought we made contact because I seen him kick sideways, and I looked back and I definitely didn't make contact. It might have been net code or something. I tried to apologize to Doug about that. And yeah, man, it was extremely loose. You really had to back your corners up and really roll into the throttle, almost like a short track, trying to save your rear tires. But yeah, once those rear tires were gone, it was really hard to hang on to.
Well, definitely another fantastic showing for that number 2 machine here tonight. A little bit of a new look to that number 2 machine here tonight as well. But next week, of course, we got Daytona for the Firecracker 200. And I know you're probably not the biggest fan of super speedways, but we've seen you with some good runs at super speedways here in the past. You looking forward to Daytona to kind of round out the regular season?
I'm looking forward to next Wednesday. Daytona is just one of those crapshoots. You don't really know what's going to happen. You can run up front and get in trouble. You can run in back, get in trouble. I think at Talladega we ran out back for most of the race. So we may do that again, see what happens, see how it plays out. But it's I'll be ready for that race to be over with.
Well, nonetheless, I'm sure we'll see that number 2 out front at some point next week at Daytona. Might not be the last lap, but you always seem to find some way to get yourself to the front of the pack. Getting your 9th win here tonight in the Falcon Race Wraps Glen 110. And I know you do have some sponsor shout-outs to give, so let's hear them, Greg.
Yeah, definitely got to thank Alliance Truck Parts, Freightliner, Detroit Diesel, Duct Tape and Sure Tape, I Race a Knife Flag, Carolina Sim Works, all my guys from Steel Horse Racing, Sam Crow's my teammate over here. And like I always, thank you guys for broadcasting it. Like I said, this being broadcast, it makes it a different deal. You're able to get sponsors and stuff involved in watching the races, and it just totally changed it. Thank you guys for doing it.
Well, we enjoy doing it each and every week. You guys put on a good show for us to commentate, so thank you for that. It was a great race here tonight, Greg. We'll see you next week at Daytona, and we'll see if you can get win number 10 on the season next week. Best of luck, Greg.
Guys, hopefully we will. But we'll see you guys next week.
All right. Well, folks, sorry for a little bit of an extended post-race here tonight, but let's see if we can go through tonight's final rundown. Greg, why don't you take it away?
I can do that. Peter, coming away with the win tonight was Greg Evans in the number 2, win number 9 on the season. Doug Mullins with a career best finish in 2nd in the number 18, with Woody Mahan, a big points night for him to close in on Bouchard for the final playoff spot in 3rd. Will Borsler, John Jenkins, your points leader, round out the top 5. Tyler Seville in the number 11 after going off-roading a couple of times in the number 11 comes home 6th. Jimmy McKee in 7th. Michael Krobach, Brian Yazik, and AJ Digby rallies back to finish in the top 10, Peter.
In the 11th position here tonight was none other than the number 1 machine of Jason Stewart. Adam Jersky comes home in 12th in that Beef Jersey's Cheesecakes machine. He started around that 12th position, so pretty much a net 0 for Adam Jersky here tonight. Jordan Harnish coming home in 13th. Cody Spiker finishes down in the 14th position in that race machine. Sam Crow in 15th. We saw that great battle right there on the final lap between those two. Well, that position fell to the number 19 machine. John Broussard finishes in the 16th position. As you see, the first car 1 lap down. Behind him, Alan Young in the number 24. Jackson Van Valkenburg in the position right behind him. Troy Haight in 19th, and Tim Knott round out your top 20 there, Greg.
Coming home in the 21st position is Lee Staples. Had an up and down day in the number 26. Tanner Sharp making his second start of the season, finishes 22nd. Ed Bray in the 66, 23rd, with Chris Bouchard, after leading for a little bit, led 9 laps on the course of the day. Had those connection issues, dropped him to a 24th place finish. Rounding out the field was Brad Lee, 25th. Richard Fletcher, 26th. James Lorello did not finish the race. Mark Myers and Michael Whiting did not start today, Peter. So 27 cars took the green flag.
Yeah, and I'm just now looking at the point standings. I mean, we talked about Bouchard and just how many positions he lost, or how many points he lost to Woody Mahan. And there you can see it right there. Christopher Bouchard has a 21-point advantage over Woody Mahan going into the regular season finale at Daytona. You can't miss next week. Everyone else from 11th on up is locked into the playoffs, but Christopher Bouchard, Woody Mahan, that will be the storyline going into Daytona, round 7 of the Serve Pro Wheelman Showdown. Will Greg Evans pick up win number 10? We will have to find out next week, same time, same place, right here on 3Y TV. I'm very much looking forward to it, but that is just about going to wrap up the Falcon Race Wraps at the Glen here on 3Y TV. Big shout out to our friends over at SimTV for the camera angles. But for myself, Peter Short, Carlos Acosta, and Greg Rentz, we want to give each and every one of you a good night. We'll see you in 1 week's time here in the Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series. See ya!